All right, welcome back to the Outspoken Outlaws podcast, unofficially named.
Yeah, the most rootin' tootin' rowdy podcast, hell-raising podcast in LA. If you can name one more hell-raising podcast than us, then we'll beat your ass.
Yeah, we'll just beat your ass. We're not going to, be friends with that other fucking podcast.
Yeah, we'll go to the podcast and we'll start a straight-up bar fight in their apartment.
Yeah, if you're watching, Bad Friends with Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee, don't be surprised if all of a sudden a Harley comes into frame and the levels of the audio are, blasted out of proportion, and I just roll in, and I'm like, well, this is our studio now. We should do that. We could, take a guy's studio.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that on a different podcast, which I will not name, about stealing Joe Rogan's studio.
Right. Yeah, we did talk about that.
But now actually, it's very different because we're talking about stealing it from Andrew Santino.
It's completely different. It's a completely different thing. Yeah, we just.
But Andrew Santino, if you think you're a motherfucking outlaw, why don't you try coming on the Outspoken Outlaws podcast?
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it.
If you're really a fucking outlaw, then come on.
Yeah, if you really feel so fucking rowdy.
Yeah. If you really think you can have a conversation that is just as rowdy as our regular day-to-day chit-chat.
Oh, yeah. This is small talk for us.
And I will say,
imagine how deep we go into rowdiness.
This is just regular getting to know somebody.
Yeah.
The way rowdy guys meet each other usually. But when we really get deep and have real conversations,
people die.
That shit is so rowdy. Sometimes our conversation,
a straight up genocide happens when we have a real conversation.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we just stop talking and just start shooting guns in the air as a way of communicating, you know? I'll fire one and you fire two, and I'm like, damn, and I fire two back, and that's like a sign of agreement.
Yeah, I remember when we were scalping the motherfucker? We didn't say a word. We just looked at each other in the eyes and just scalped that motherfucker.
And just thought, this is Outlaw.
Yeah. Well, I felt like I knew Cooper in a way that no woman will ever understand Cooper.
No, and I told my girlfriend at the time, I was like, I just want you to know you don't know who I am. And she's like, what? Yeah. I'm like, because you wouldn't scalp a motherfucker outside of the Home Goods in Glendale with me.
Yeah.
And we did, And I don't know who that guy was, but his family was bitches about it. Because they weren't.
Yeah.
And I will say.
Yeah.
They
were all like, that's my dad.
Yeah, they were like, that's my dad you're scalping.
You're scalping my dad and he's dead.
Yeah.
Shut up. We're rowdy.
It's like, if this guy was an outlaw, he wouldn't have tied himself down to a house.
I remember when we drove around trying to find some, appropriate railroad tracks. Yeah. And we couldn't find any railroad tracks we felt were right.
No.
So we were just like, let's just drive him to the motherfucking Home Goods. Because that's where fucking bitches get killed.
Because we were driving around and seeing,
we were seeing shit that pisses us off.
Yeah, we were seeing shit that pisses us off, which is most stuff that's not rowdy because nothing is outlaw anymore. And we were in South Central, and there are some train tracks that run through there, but they weren't, old, dusty, and they didn't have, a wise quality to them.
Yeah.
So they were pretty much useless to us.
A lot of people ask me, what are my top 3 favorite rowdy neighborhoods in L.A.? Number 1, Skid Row. Number 2, MacArthur Park.
Yeah.
Number 3, South Central.
Yeah. Number 4, Ramona Gardens.
Yeah. Well, we're also naming top 3 projects in L.A.
Yeah.
Number 1, Nickerson Gardens. Number 2, Ramona Gardens. Number 3, I don't even know if Jordan Downs is a thing anymore.
We need to change the way we talk about projects. Because it's disrespectful. Because they say, oh, the people that live there are poor.
They ought to say they're outlaws.
They're outlaws.
Yeah.
It's literally just a building of outlaws.
Yeah, exactly.
I go to Ramona Gardens and I talk to guys in Big Hazard 13 and, White Fence affiliates and stuff. And and I'm like, it's just cool to see this outlaw culture.
Yeah. Yeah, they explained the gang to me, and I'm like, oh, you're cowboys.
Yeah, I look at a 13-year-old named Creeper who's killed 2 people, and I'm like, you are Billy the Kid.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, if you don't back up, I'm going to shoot your ass. And I'm like, that's so outlaw.
Yeah, have you ever seen you've been driving the ghetto, you just seen a 13-year-old trying to hold up an assault rifle?
No.
It's so cute.
In L.A. you've seen that?
Not in L.A.
Okay. That seems like something you would... I don't honestly feel like I've almost never seen anybody just driving around and I've seen them holding a gun in L.A.
That is, this seems like more of a stabbing city.
It's a stabbing city, and I think
a blunt object city.
I think if somebody's walking around with a gun in their hand, they're probably doing it at night in a neighborhood I don't live in. And
They were doing it in our the neighborhood you used to live in with there's a guy walking around with a gun, and then I saw it on my Citizens app, and then an hour later I heard a gunshot. It's like, finally found somebody.
I wonder if that was the same one because my roommate got shot at.
Oh,
where, like,
yeah.
She was like in her car on her phone. Some guy pulled up window to window, showed a gun. She got scared and ducked, obviously, and then she heard a shot.
Mhm.
But I don't think I think he fired it like in the air or something just to like freak her out.
Yeah.
So I do feel really bad for my roommate because it seemed kind of traumatizing to her in the moment. But I couldn't say it. But I was like, that's outlaw culture.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that he fired a gun 4 feet away from you,
Yeah.
and you're just a nice person from Portland who's trying to, review movies in LA and is very successful at it. But you're going to run into outlaws.
A lot of people from Portland think they're never going to meet an outlaw.
And it pisses me off.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
They're like, we're going to go to Portland, the only non-outlaw settlement in America.
yeah, and it's like there are tons of outlaws there. They have
Exactly.
a huge homeless problem.
Not as big as the outlaw problem we have out here.
No, we have a humongous outlaw problem. It's a terrible, and a lot of those
Joe Rogan moved out of LA because of all the outlaws.
and a lot of those outlaws are addicted to outlaw substances, which make you an outlaw.
Outlaw amphetamine.
Yeah. I'm gonna start telling meth and be like, "This makes you an outlaw. You
Yeah.
smoke it once, and you're an outlaw.
Yeah.
You are no longer following the rules of polite society."
Hey, you want to smoke this cigarette? It's going to make you an outlaw. I dipped that in some shit that straight up makes you a country boy.
So yeah, Andrew Santino, come on our podcast, smoke a dipped cigarette, and just show that you're an outlaw. Because I will say,
Yeah, come smoke Sherm on the Outspoken Outlaws. If
mean-
you really think you're an edgy comedian.
Andrew Santino, I've parked his car a few times. He's been nothing but nice. He's a guy that remembers your name. One time he watched my set, and he said, good set, Coop, and that made me feel really good. And
That's really nice that he's a liar.
that's not true. All the interactions I've had with him, I've thought, he's a nice guy. I like him. I will say I just haven't seen the outlaw side yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a comedian. He goes on tour, so he does ramble.
Oh.
He is a rambling man.
Yeah, for sure.
Who performs the songs of the people to the heartland of America.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is very outlaw.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, he's probably played some of the same venues that Waylon Jennings played.
I played venues that Willie Nelson played.
Like what? The Poop House?
I played this place. I find it's funny calling it played when you're a stand-up comedian.
I don't like when guys say that.
Yeah.
I think you can say it if you're like massively famous.
Yeah,
if you're
but
like doing
I
theaters.
did this place in what's that place? What's that city that's right next to the Grand Canyon? Fucking
Is it a famous Arizona city?
Arizona, yeah, famous Arizona city.
What do they got? Phoenix?
It's not Phoenix.
And-
It's not even that close to the Grand Canyon, but it is like I think the last city before the Grand Canyon.
What venue is this? Was it like a...
It's like an old music venue. It was like very long. Yeah, it used to be a country venue, which I've done. I mean, I've done country venues before.
And
So
when you-
really, hey, how many country venues have you done, by the way? How many country venues have you?
Country venues.
How many country music places have you performed?
How many country music places have I performed?
Hey, do they do country music at the Comedy Store at all?
I did a set in a poker room that had been shut down for illegal gambling, and there was
That's
a
rambling.
group of Nazi lowriders there. And it was... I didn't agree with them, but it was an outlaw situation, 100%.
See, I want the Outspoken Outlaw podcast to come out against Nazis.
Yes.
Despite the fact that they're some of the most outlaw motherfuckers you could be, some of the hardest motherfuckers. We
Well-
respect Nazis, but we're against what they believe.
Nazis are a cautionary tale of outlawism.
Yeah.
Because you made the point last night in that an outlaw respects their fellow man.
Exactly.
And does not believe in oppression, because
Yeah.
to believe in a free, rambling, gambling life,
Yeah.
you cannot believe in the internment of the Jewish people.
Exactly.
It's in direct
Exactly.
conflict. And
Exactly.
that's also to say...
concentration camps are not outlaw,
Yeah. And
but
I
gas
want,
chambers are outlaw.
yeah, but not when they're used...
Not
once
when they're
again-
used as a genocide. But dude, if you were just in a room and you're like, and you looked up and you're like, oh, I'm in a gas chamber. That's outlaw.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe if you were rambling and gambling so much, you might accidentally find yourself in a gas chamber because of your outlaw life. So I think you living such a crazy life where you would end up there is outlaw, but I don't think a gas chamber objectively is outlaw.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, like, I mean, this is going to sound offensive.
Well, you're an outlaw, so anything you say will.
But a lot of the Jewish people killed in the concentration camps were not outlaw, so they had no business in gas chambers.
Yeah, well, and also the thing was, outlaw culture hadn't really spread to the Jewish communities of Central Europe at that point.
Yeah, it's more of a Western and American Southeast thing.
Yeah, so if the outlaw culture had spread to the Jewish communities of Germany, I think they would have been able to better defend themselves.
Yes.
And frankly, if there was more proliferance of outlawism, Hitler and the Nazi Party's speeches and propaganda wouldn't have taken hold because people would say, why the hell would I want to be part of some big group?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm an outlaw.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense why I would be part of this, like,
it's wild how being a Nazi is both the most outlaw thing you can be and also the most bitch
it's the most
thing
bitch
you can
thing.
be.
Because you've joined
because you're
group.
like, I'm gonna be with a bunch of guys and we're all outlaws.
Yeah. And if you're looking at us saying, well, you guys are Americans and you are citizens of a country, so you're part of that group. But you have to realize that being a citizen of America, there is outlaw rights were laid out in the Constitution.
Yes.
Like, very clearly outlaw
And I burn my
rights.
draft card every year. So
yeah, I don't know why you got it either. Like,
they send me a draft card. They say, you're the most badass motherfucker in Los Angeles. You gotta join the army.
yeah,
And I burn it.
And
Yeah, I
you
burn it in front of the White House.
Yeah.
I take a trip to DC and burn it right in front of the White House.
Yeah. Well, yeah, every year I take a flight to DC just to flip off the White House and then I go back home.
Yeah. Oh man, I like to like shoot fireworks
Yeah.
near the White House and they say stop.
Yeah.
And I take off my cowboy hat and
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, good day, miss, and then I leave.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because I'm treating men like they're women, which is like very outlaw.
Right.
Which I respect all women.
Yeah, I remember somebody was talking about Joe Biden's spouse, and as an outlaw, I couldn't help but saying, what's his name?
Yeah.
And everybody was so afraid of how outlaw I was being conversationally that I was kicked out of the book club.
You know, every time anyone brings up another person, I go, what's his name?
Everybody's gay. Just anybody you talk to. Even a woman, just like, my husband. You're like, yeah, what's his name?
Yeah. They're just like, so my mom died. I'm like, oh, what's his name?
Yeah. Which is outlaw.
It's very outlaw to make fun of somebody during the lowest moments of their life.
And if you don't know, an outlaw funeral is a closed casket that is then shot into.
Yeah.
That everybody brings their outlaw guns and they shoot into the casket as many times as they can. It's called a switch cheese burial.
Yeah. What is it? What is that thing called? A pauper's graveyard? You know, where they bury the unidentified bodies?
Yeah. The outlaws.
I call it an outlaw graveyard.
Yeah, the outlaws.
I call it the rowdiest graveyard in the whole city.
Yeah, I was walking through the veteran cemetery in Westwood, and there were a lot of unmarked graves, and I was like, they got outlaws in here?
Yeah.
I thought it was all just military
These guys are like, I don't got a name. I'm the man with no name, like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, very outlaw, to be completely honest.
Hollywood Forever Cemetery is like the opposite of a pauper's grave.
It's
like we know who these motherfuckers are so much.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe is like, look at how big this fucking grave is.
Yeah. Look at how much people know me and know who I am.
Yeah, and a true outlaw would say, just throw my body in the Rio Grande.
Exactly.
I mean, that's where I want to die, obviously.
Yeah.
On the banks of the Rio Grande, and then roll into the rushing waters and be swept away. And then eat him.
That's like beautiful.
Yeah. I was talking about Zoroastrianism on my podcast. And what they do for dead bodies is they leave them in a huge pit, essentially, that they build with stone, and then vultures come and eat their bodies. And
vultures are the outlaw animal.
Yeah, I mean, only eating dead bodies.
Yeah.
Like recently dead too, like it has to be dead and like start decaying.
Do you know that photo of the like African child who's being watched by the vulture?
Yeah.
I think it's called like Two Outlaws.
It's called Child Stalked by Outlaw. Yeah. No, definitely.
Have you seen the photo of the guy shooting the man, about to shoot the man in Vietnam? Pretty sure it's called An Outlaw and a Half.
I do have an issue where sometimes people will show me pictures of like true horrific poverty, and I'm like, why are you showing me this outlaw content?
Yeah, I start yee-hawing and doing a square dance when people show me that.
Yeah, I start hooting and hollering when I see pictures of moral depravity. Because I'm like, shit, is that some outlaw stuff? And they're like, no, these are the actions of the American Nazi Party in 1920. And I'm like,
imagine if you go to Skid Row and there's just a cowboy just like, yee-haw, yee-haw.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, you did bring up a great point that Skid Row is truly the most concentrated collection of outlaws we have in the Western Hemisphere.
Maybe the whole of America, yeah.
Truly the whole, I don't know. I mean, I know Kensington definitely has an outlaw problem right now in like Philadelphia.
Kensington doesn't have as many people. Also, they're all on dope, which is the least outlaw of the hard drugs.
Well, yeah, they have an open-air outlaw market right now that's trying to drive housing prices down by making the whole community outlaw.
Yeah.
And then these fucking gentrifiers who are not outlaws.
The reverse outlaws.
Gentrification is truly the exact opposite of being an outlaw.
Yeah.
Of being like, I'm going to make this place nice.
Yeah.
An outlaw walks into a nice area and says, I'm going to make this place fucked up and crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel at home, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. A lot of people are probably thinking like, you know, because two outlaws together, you know, working together, that doesn't sound...
Yeah.
Outlaw at all.
But we work for
the common bad.
The common bad.
Yes.
And that is sort of the outlaw code, is that we will be willing, although begrudgingly, to work together as long as it is for the common bad.
Exactly.
To make things bad. I actually have an outlaw machine that puts me to sleep. It's like a white noise machine, but it's just sounds of guys fighting in a bar.
Ooh.
So like right when I turn it on, it's like, what did you say?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I said you look like a lily liver. And then you just hear like sounds of punching.
Lily liver? What the fuck?
Yeah. Dude, I'm sorry. I know
Are we allowed to say slurs on the podcast?
I know we said we're not going to say any outlaw slurs. So not only do we not say racial or like homophobic slurs on this podcast, but we also don't say anything that would offend an outlaw.
Oh, exactly. So we're not saying like, yo mama sucks or anything.
Yeah, and you can't like call a guy married.
Yeah,
like, that's like really...
Yeah, we can't say a guy could be tied down.
Yeah. We can't say that a guy is nothing without his woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if he feels that way, as outlaws sometimes do.
Yeah,
sometimes an outlaw does need a place to hang his hat on.
We can't say a beer has no tears in it.
Yeah.
Like if you're drinking a beer, there's got to be some tears in there.
There has to be at least one tear. Because of course the life of an outlaw is a life of strife.
Yes.
You know, and there is trouble in the life of an outlaw, and it's not... You know, it's not all cracked up. People act like being an outlaw is like, oh, you just have fun all the time. It's like,
oh, exactly.
It's not that easy. You know what I mean?
People think that like drinking, fighting, fucking, that it's easy. They think it's easy.
People think we just wake up every day and drink, fight, and fuck and go to sleep.
People think we wake up. We fuck whoever we're with, maybe a man or a woman. We fight them.
Yeah.
And then we drink some beer to forget what we just did.
Yeah. And it's, it's interesting because outlaws and veterans share a common thing where the populace says, we want the truth. And it's like, you can't handle the outlaw truth.
Yeah.
The same as you can't handle what sometimes has to happen in war to keep the country safe. And nobody respects the outlaws that are keeping the foundation of outlaw nature in America sound and safe, And do I personally believe that people should have easy access to high-powered assault rifles?
Yes.
No, but in the name of preserving outlaw culture, I do have to.
Oh, yeah.
There's just some things where, as an outlaw...
We're not libertarians, we're outlaws.
Yeah, so for my outlaw life, I don't require a fully automatic assault rifle, but some outlaws do, and I can't act like every outlaw is the same, because outlaws are like snowflakes. They're all different and unique.
Yeah.
And you have to...
Which is crazy. Outlaws are like snowflakes, because they're very different and unique. Non-outlaws are woke liberal snowflakes.
Yes, it's funny enough.
Yes.
Funny enough that
it's kind of a crazy coincidence.
Yeah, so...
If you're a motherfucking liberal and you're watching the podcast, you might learn a thing or two.
You can be a liberal outlaw.
The liberal outlaw?
Yeah.
Like the liberal redneck?
Fred Hampton is the greatest liberal outlaw in the world. because he looked at his nation, which was oppressing his people.
Oh, the Black Panthers are outlaws.
Maybe the greatest outlaws this country's ever known.
They're the reverse Nazis. That's like the highest form of outlaw.
Yeah.
Where Nazis are the lowest form of
And
outlaw.
you know how you know that Fred Hampton was truly an outlaw is that he said that everything he does is for the people. And an outlaw believes in the hardworking people of this nation.
Yeah.
And he looked at the black community and said, these people are not able to freely express their outlawness as much as they should be able to in terms of voting, in terms of good schools, in terms of proper nutrition. Because an outlaw needs nutrition.
If a black person is not allowed to vote, then that means he's not allowed to refuse to vote, which is an outlaw thing.
Exactly. You need the right. You need all the laws afforded to you so you are able to break them and or abstain from following them.
Exactly.
Because
if we weren't allowed, if they did not make a law that required that we have a social security number, I would not be able to not have a social security number.
Of course. And so it's like, Fred Hampton looked around and he's like, obviously I'm an outlaw.
Yeah.
But the country I live in is killing my people. Yeah. And in oppressed people, when there are people that are under a tyrannical order, when they're oppressed and when they are outlawed by the state, they're not outlaws.
Yes.
They're an oppressed people.
Yes.
You need to have the freedom to break the rules to be an outlaw.
Yes.
And now times have changed. I mean, it's amazing that we had an outlaw president in Barack Obama. A lot of people in our nation never thought that we would have an outlaw in office,
I would say a man like JFK was an outlaw, but only because he was killed in front of his woman.
Yeah, that is the most outlaw thing you can do is to have your head fucking exploded in front of your wife who's all fucking bitchy about it too.
Oh, she was nagging. She was literally nagging. Yeah. Trying to get out of that car.
Having your wife try and scoop your brains back into your head is the most outlaw way a guy can die. And I was talking about this on my podcast. Is Franklin Delano Roosevelt pretending to not be paralyzed is outlaw.
Oh, yeah.
Because an outlaw couldn't show that kind of weakness to the nation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And General Grant...
Well, I also have this conspiracy theory that he was pretending to be disabled, but then hiding that he was... He was so deep into pretending that he was disabled that he was like, well, I'm going to have to hide that I'm disabled.
Which distracted him from his outlaw goals.
I mean, it's very outlaw to pretend to be disabled. A lot of times I'll be walking around pretending I have cerebral palsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not for any reason other than that I have a kind of an outlaw philosophy.
Right. You go into Starbucks and you try and get free drinks by pretending to be, like, special needs.
Yeah.
The way an outlaw would.
Yeah, but I also pretend to be Palestinian, so they tell me to go home.
Yeah. I always get free coffee and free room and board by sweeping up and washing dishes, the way an outlaw would. A king of the road.
You know what I think is fucked up is that ever since the Israel-Palestine thing, they started putting on, like, Muslim blood on the menu. Did you see this? Their new drink, Muslim blood?
Starbucks is?
Yeah.
No. They shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think it's fucked up.
Yeah, because Zionism is not outlaw.
Absolutely not outlaw. What? You love the Bible?
Because first...
Oh, that's your favorite book, the Bible.
First off, very not outlaw.
Yeah.
But wanting to protect your people is outlaw, but then doing it in a way where you're setting up settlements where people have lived for hundreds, if not thousands of years and tied roots down there and trying to push a man out of where he lives is very un-outlaw.
But I have a contrast. Pretty cowboy.
It is cowboy.
I mean, we got to say, they're not outlaws, but they're cowboys.
But cowboys have always tried to tear down the outlaw. Because some of the greatest outlaws ever known to man were, of course, the Native Americans, more specifically the Apache, who learned to ride horses and defended the West.
If there's anyone that's not a lily liver, it's the Apache people.
Yeah, of course.
Apache people.
And the Apaches, of course, get a seal of outlaw approval. Mm-hmm. But what the cowboys and the homesteaders were doing was they were being fucking stupid because... Of course, the Native Americans have a nomadic outlaw culture where they follow the buffalo. They never stay in one place. They're literally in their culture is to ramble and gamble. Men,
Yes.
women, children all ramble
yes.
and gamble.
Mhm.
And then the settlers came in and the cowboys came in and they said, you have to stay on this reservation. We're going to take this land because we want to stay in one place. And all these motherfuckers that wanted to stay in one place came in and decimated a beautiful outlaw culture
Yeah.
that now can sometimes be seen on reservations, in the Southwest and stuff like that. But then again, to try and put all those outlaws in one place goes against their culture. And
Speaking of decimating a beautiful outlaw culture, the Olympics is coming to LA in a couple years.
yeah,
They're totally going to try to take all the outlaws off the streets.
oh,
They're going to take the outlaws out of the playgrounds, jacking all,
yeah.
all those great outlaws.
Well, they're gonna build more Olympic stadiums in the current areas where outlaws live.
Yes.
Which is going to push the outlaws to places
The
like...
sidewalk is the most outlaw place, so if they start building shit on sidewalks, we're fucked.
If we lose the sidewalks in this country,
Yeah.
if we lose the place in America where you can walk by a guy and bump him hard as fuck with your shoulder and then look
Yeah.
back at him and say, what the fuck,
Yeah.
then we have no outlaw
Or you can
culture.
see a guy walking with his woman and then try to fight him, and then the woman leaves with you.
Yeah. Is it outlaw that Joe Biden is our president and
I don't
he fucks up his words a lot? Is that outlaw?
No, that's not outlaw at all. That's just being an old man.
It's just being an old man. Okay.
I think you could get confused because there's a lot of old outlaws that fuck up their words.
Yeah, that
like
is
they're
true.
calling people like liver lilies and stuff.
Yeah. But lily livers. But
No. That's what they're saying.
also, one time Joe Biden terrorized the rape victim. I think it was Anita Hill, and there was a big trial. He just kept telling her to shut up and that she was a liar, and that's not outlaw, because outlaws do believe
That
women.
does. Do they though? They don't believe them when they're nagging.
Not when they're nagging, but when they're
When they're a victim of another outlaw,
of a violent crime.
of a cowboy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Because outlaws don't rape.
Absolutely not. That
No.
you're thinking of cowboys.
Outlaws are hot.
But you
attractive.
can also be an outlaw and a cowboy. But you can also be just a cowboy, but not an outlaw, and that's where you get into the badness.
That's where you get into the badness. If you are going to be a cowboy, you do need to at least respect outlaw culture,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's been a big problem. in
Well,
our
me and
country.
Cooper are members of the Hells Angels. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Famous Southern California motorcycle gang. We sell meth that puts holes in your brains. Very outlaw type of thing we do. But we actually had to fight a guy one time because he said that Bill Cosby, he thinks only 20 of the women were telling the truth.
And that is so not outlaw.
It's not. No.
I mean, if women are not able to feel safe in this country, then they're not able to feel safe to be outlaws, and then our outlaw culture diminishes, and that's an
Oh.
issue that we can't have in this
I hope I
nation.
didn't just get a text from my woman. You know I'm ignoring it if it's from my woman.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. She's trying to tie me down saying stuff like, please call me, please pay your child support.
Yeah. And an outlaw can't pay child support.
Absolutely not. You know what an outlaw does? He has sex with another man's baby mama,
Yeah.
and she gives him half of her child support.
Do you know how much money it costs to fuck, drink, and fight?
About about $10,000 a month.
Because you got to pay for at least 16 beers a night to make Johnny Paycheck happy.
Yes.
And you also have to pay for hospital bills for all your hands that keep breaking on motherfuckers' faces, which costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then fucking...
all the
you know,
crutches, the
Yeah.
amount of crutches you have to buy.
Yeah. And then fucking, maybe you're taking girls out to a saloon or something.
Oh, did we
That might-
mention the five F's of being an outlaw?
No, we haven't.
It's fighting, fucking cussing, fucking drinking whiskey, and figuring out your problems so you can deal with them.
Yeah, you need to figure out your problems, because a guy that has trauma and he's exerting it on the world and not being... Because that's not independence. You're
Yeah,
still-
that's letting another man boss you around.
Yeah.
The man.
Now, of course, an outlaw...
If you've never fought your dad, you're not an outlaw.
Now, of course, being an outlaw does involve lamenting your troubled past.
Yes,
But it is
there's a
also
difference.
part of riding away on your motorcycle and embracing your independence despite what you've been through,
Yes, exactly.
which is very outlaw.
There's a friend of ours. He keeps asking to be a part of the outlaw lifestyle, but the problem is he's dealing with a lot of trauma from his mom. His mom's an outlaw.
Yeah, his mom is an outlaw, and
He
if you don't know...
himself is not an outlaw.
So, but the thing is when you have a parent or a spouse with outlaw personality disorder, oftentimes dealing with them will give you a type of PTSD, which is essentially a mimicked version of outlaw personality disorder with the highs and lows of emotions.
Yeah.
So I think he has that kind of PTSD, so he is a bit of outlaw personality disorder.
Yeah. To be an outlaw is to rapidly shift. Is to rapid what's the word? Rapid cycling.
Yeah.
Rapid cycling. Because you go from fighting to fucking like that.
Yeah.
That's the rapid cycling.
Yeah. And
it's kind of a bipolar, but it's fighting fucking.
Well, yeah, I mean, I went to a therapist, and he was like, you have borderline personality disorder. And
you have borderline outlaw disorder.
And I'm like, do you mean outlaw? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, all right, well, if you don't understand what I'm saying, obviously you don't know how to ramble and gamble and,
Well, did he say that because you were talking about how you can't be tied down by any woman?
Of course. And he was trying to give me these pills that he said would keep my emotions within a range that is appropriate. And I was like...
Appropriate is another outlaw slur.
Exactly.
Nobody is doing any... I was like, if you're an outlaw, you're not doing appropriate shit
And I was like,
ever.
did you just say appropriate? Like a hard P appropriate?
Yeah.
To me, an outlaw? And I was like, you want to give me a pill...
that makes me appropriate.
That stops me from being an outlaw.
Oh, you're about to give me another pill that makes me proper, right?
Like, he wants to regulate my outlaw levels.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like trying to put a bull in a dress.
Yeah.
It's an outlaw.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I mean, that's, fucking what we're dealing with. And
yeah, I know. I mean, if you want to write in the Dagnabbit boys at Gmail. Tell us about your lifestyle. I know that our name for the podcast is Dagnabbit boys, but our unofficial name that we changed it to is the Outspoken Outlaws.
Yeah, and we were talking about officially changing it, but we realized that as outlaws, to officially change something is to follow the rules, and that's not outlaw.
You just said the rules, and it made me want to punch something.
I know, right? I hated even saying it.
It's
kind of like when like a Satanist says the word God, they start like it burns their mouth.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I feel when
I've never made a Satanist because I don't like band geeks.
Oh, totally. I mean, Satanists say they're outlaws, but they're just part of a group.
There is a epidemic of band geeks pretending to be outlaws.
Oh, totally.
If you go to an artist party, they're all doing cocaine and talking about how they fuck and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you're a bunch of band geeks. That's what the band geeks did.
Yeah. Well, because
an outlaw would beat all your fucking asses, which I do, and I am banned from many of these parties from rootin' and tootin' at the goddamn party.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to this guy, and he was trying to act like an outlaw, and I was like, "Oh, is this your house?" And he was like, "Yeah, isn't it sick?" And I was like, "No, it's a house.
Yeah,
you live here permanently." Like, you don't lay your head on whatever kind of soft thing you can find at the end of the day after all the rambling and gambling. And he's like, no, I just come back here and sleep. And he fucking pays to do that.
Whoa, I went into a guy's house one time, and I picked up a cactus, and I'm like, whoa, you have a sick pillow.
Yeah, right?
And he's like, no, this is my cactus. And I was like, you mean you sleep on this, right?
Right.
You sleep on this at the end of after a hard day of rambling, you sleep on this. And he's like,
because pain is all you know.
This is my pillow. And he pulls out this, rectangular fucking...
Oh, I've seen those.
Cloth. Cloth.
One of those
There's,
bitch
feathers.
squares.
Yeah, that's what we were calling them.
Yeah.
That's what we were calling them the other day.
Yeah, that's if you have a bitch head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. An outlaw can lay his hat on anything and get the sleep he needs because he's been rambling and gambling all day.
Well, a lot of things... I was talking to this guy about the bitch square he was lying on.
Right.
And I was like, all right, so where's your cowboy hat you put on to keep the sun out of your eyes?
Right.
And he didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah, he pulled out these fucking stupid-ass sunglasses.
He pulled out this little thing. It's like black, and you wrap it around and you put it on your eye.
It's so stupid.
What do you even call those?
Well, it's an eye cover.
What is that, lily liver glasses?
Pretty much, yeah. It's lily liver glasses. And I don't know. You can see...
It's like, motherfucker, I straight up have cholera.
Yeah.
Quit talking to me like this.
I took metal pieces from a railroad and laid them across my bed where my head is, because that's the only thing that feels comfortable and normal for me to sleep on.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it is, it's tough.
I have to build a fire at the bottom of my bed just to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I always need hot coals still burning in the morning that I can put in a coffee pot and carry on the horse so I can start a fire later in the day.
Yeah.
As an outlaw.
And a lot of people, they take this melatonin.
Yeah.
What happened to burning yourself with cigarettes until you fall asleep?
Yeah, well, that's what we would consider an outlaw suppressant. The same
yeah.
as antipsychotic drugs. The
A
same
what?
as
A what?
anti-outlaw drugs. The same as mood stabilizers, a.k.a. Outlaw stabilizers.
I just had a great idea.
Yeah.
What if instead of like adding the audio in for this podcast, we just play Waylon Jennings music and they can just watch us talk, but they don't know what we're saying?
And then we switch the video so it's Waylon Jennings.
Oh, at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
This is my parents only have one picture of me from comedy, and it's on their fridge, and it's of me in the backstage of the Grand Ole Opry.
that's sick.
Yeah.
Why were you there?
A friend of mine was performing there, and he invited me over, and he showed me around.
Was your friend an outlaw?
He's one of those. He's one of those guys that isn't an outlaw, but he's like sympathetic to the outlaw.
But he understands the outlaw culture.
Yeah,
but he himself cannot live the life. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I respect people that see the outlaw culture and say, that's amazing, but it's not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate motherfuckers that see the outlaw culture and try and tear it down or try and pretend to be part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's disgusting.
We call them the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The
You just have
rootin'
to-
tootin' phonies.
Yeah, they're rootin' tootin' phonies. And a lot of our government, I mean, one of the biggest fake outlaws in the world is Ron DeSantis. And the biggest example
I
is
thought you
that-
were going to say J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, definitely not an outlaw.
Oh, man.
He snitched. He was a bitch, and he got blackmailing somebody is not outlaw.
Yeah, sometimes I'll call up the police and I'll be like, I'll prank call them. I'll be like, I'm about to snitch.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, please tell us!
We love a snitches.
Oh, I'm so excited! Please tell us about all these different things."
And then I'm just like, I'm snitching on me, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm an outlaw.
Yeah.
And then I hang up.
Yeah,
And then they're like, we're going to use our police training to track this motherfucker down. But because I'm a rambling outlaw, they can't find me.
well, a true outlaw leaves no trace,
Exactly.
which is also out of respect to their fellow man.
I leave no footprints, not because bum-ass Jesus carries me, but because I leave no goddamn trace. I carry like a little brush around, so if I'm walking in the sand, I can just...
An outlaws respect Jesus, but not as God or the Son of God, but as an outlaw.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
getting
he's also...
crucified
It's so
is
weird.
outlaw.
It's so weird. He's a dirty hippie and also an outlaw at the same time, which there are many of those if you read back into the 70s.
Yeah.
In the 60s,
Yeah.
that there are a lot of hippie outlaws.
Well, yeah, I mean, Charles Manson was an outlaw.
Oh, 100%.
But he did...
100%.
But he definitely...
Sharon Tate, not an outlaw.
Well-
but her fetus that they killed,
outlaw.
outlaw.
Could have
Fetus.
grown up to be an outlaw.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
kind of cut down an outlaw in his prime.
And that's why I do support the right of abortion unless you are aborting a potential outlaw. Because if you are pregnant with a man's
Some
child who can drink half a bottle of Jim Beam and still give good loving to his woman,
yeah.
then that child's probably going to be an outlaw. And to
Yeah.
abort them
I am
disgusting.
sick of these conservatives saying that they're against abortion except in cases of incest, rape, or the father's an outlaw.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like people need the right for whatever they... Because... Listen, I don't think you should abort outlaws. But sometimes there is a woman who is an outlaw, and having a child would tie them down.
We should abort the people that are only cowboys. You know the song about it, Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
So abort them.
Abort the cowboys.
Abort them. Yeah.
If you're just a cowboy, you're
Yeah.
a bitch.
Because if
Because you're
like...
killing Native Americans, and you're sleeping on square. What do we call them? Bitch
squares.
squares.
Yeah.
Yeah, and doing all sorts of fucked up shit like that.
Yeah. Man, that shit pisses me off. I mean, yeah.
It's almost
it's
as
like,
bad as rules.
Like, don't even say it. If a young woman
This is an edgy outlaw podcast. We say stuff like rules on it.
I know. If a woman is trying to start her career as an outlaw and is trying to build up a life as an outlaw, she can't be tied down by a baby who's too young to be a full outlaw yet.
Yes.
So she has to, have the freedom to have an abortion to continue her outlaw culture until, if she wants to, one day she can birth a new outlaw.
Well, a woman that is a outlaw, her breast milk is half Jim Beam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're kind of giving the baby a date with Jim Beam when you let it suckle on your teat.
Yeah, you can tell if a baby's mother is an outlaw if after he takes his little hand and lips off of the breast, he goes... Because there's whiskey in there.
Yeah.
He goes, ooh, that's the strong stuff. But he likes the pain because he's an outlaw.
Yeah, I was talking to this baby that wasn't an outlaw the other day.
Waste of time.
Absolutely. She said her first words.
What was it?
It was, I support gay people, but like they need to keep it out of my face.
That is so not outlaw.
Absolutely not.
Because if you support outlaw culture, you have to support in-your-face expression,
Exactly.
which is completely outlaw.
Sometimes, like a lot of times, being gay is outlaw. A lot of times, it's not outlaw, but you have to be able to pick it up.
Like Caitlyn Jenner,
Not outlaw.
Being a lesbian trans woman, yes, is outlaw, but not supporting gay marriage and abortion is not outlaw. And also killing somebody and getting away with it while drunk driving because you're rich is not outlaw.
But if you got away with it because you were like, if you leave no trace.
Yeah, well, if you got away with it because you're driving a Hellcat,
yeah,
then that's outlaw.
I've killed a guy with my car before.
That's really outlaw.
Yeah, well, this is not the first time I've admitted to it publicly.
Oh, cool.
So I'm always telling people about it, but they can't get me for it for some reason.
Why is that?
Well, it's crazy because I killed a person on Beverly. It's like Beverly and Silver Lake. I ran over this guy. He was wearing a business suit. I just got pissed off.
Sure.
I ran him over and then I backed up over it so it crushed his head.
Yeah.
This was outside like
The outlaw backup.
Yeah. This was outside of the smoke shop and that Indian restaurant. If you know LA, you know the area. But if you saw a man if you saw on the news that a guy got run over in that area and killed, I did it on purpose and it was a murder.
Well, yeah, he was a casualty of the fight to be an outlaw.
Exactly.
That's
but
kind
I
of
totally 100% did this, and for some reason I've not gotten in trouble for it.
Well, it's because you're an outlaw.
Yeah, it's because I've left no trace, which is so bizarre because I've just said it so publicly so many times.
Well, when the cops know and fear you as an outlaw, they know that to take you down they would get retribution from the outlaw communities.
Yeah.
And they would have a huge problem.
I wasn't involved with the Vegas shooting, but like when I saw Stephen Paddock walking up to shoot all those people, I fist bumped him.
Stephen Paddock is such an outlaw because there was a gathering of cowboys, the country music festival, and he was like, oh, so all these non-outlaw cowboys are all going to be in one place. The only thing an outlaw can do is go up into the Bellagio, or what was he in? Mandalay Bay? Yeah, Mandalay Bay, go up to the, 16th
And he had bump
floor.
stocks, too, one of the most outlaw features of a gun.
Outlaw. Bump stocks are so outlaw.
Absolutely.
To be like, hey, it's a law, only semi-auto, and you're like, hey, it's an outlaw, full auto. Hey. And he almost killed Dan Bilzerian, which would have been great because he's one of the biggest fake outlaws in the world.
Ooh.
He's a rich kid who then just used his dad's money to gamble and made a little more money. And he pays women to hang out with him, which is not outlaw.
That's so crazy because I pay women to stay away.
Yes.
I'm like, here's $500, but you better not use that for child support.
Yeah, like Bukowski, when he got really famous, women would come to his house and they would knock on his door and they would just ask to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And he would say, get away, I have to write. Because he was busy trying to put outlaw words.
I can't decide whether or not Bukowski's an outlaw and a cowboy or just a cowboy.
He's not a cowboy at all. He's an outlaw.
No, he's definitely...
How is he a cowboy?
There's just a self-pity and whininess to it that's not very outlaw.
Well, I think I don't know if it's whining as much as it's lamenting, but still moving on from the past. Because he does talk about how he was beaten a lot growing up, but he also has a lot of great poems. Like
His poetry is outlaw.
Yeah,
his prose is not outlaw.
His prose is not that outlaw because he talks about how he hates his job. But then the post office.
Well, actually, no. That's outlaw.
Yeah, that is. I don't really see the cowboy argument if I'm being completely honest, because he has this one poem where he talks about never let your light die out, and so what you have to do in life is to commit fully to what you're doing, and that sometimes it'll lose you friends and it'll lose you a good life, but if you do it in the pursuit of your passion and what you love, that you will. I think they said the gods will. He said the gods will sing upon you.
Okay. You've convinced me.
Which is being an outlaw.
You've convinced me.
But he gives good lessons on that sometimes being an outlaw isn't always the best. Because he has this one poem, I think it's called Red Mercedes, and it's a very good poem. He talks about being at the racetrack. A guy in a red Mercedes cuts him off. He gets really fucking angry. He gets out of the car, walks up to the guy's car, and it's a lily liver. So he pounds on his thing, and he's like, get the fuck out of the car. I'm going to beat your ass the way an outlaw would. But then this lily liver points to his girlfriend who opens up the glove compartment and takes out a gun. And then he said in that poem, sometimes it's just not worth it. And that is true that sometimes being an outlaw will get you killed, and in the name of continuing to be an outlaw, you just have to not get killed by a lily liver.
Yeah, to be killed by a lily liver, it's the biggest curse an outlaw could face.
Well, you go to Outlaw Hell, which is a beautiful place with a ton of rules.
Yeah, you get killed by a lily liver. They send you to heaven.
Yeah. Outlaw Hell is just a sidewalk with no trash on it.
Yeah. Well, it's a city with no sidewalks, so there's no bums.
Yeah, and it's just a
There's
bunch
no
of
meth.
fast-moving cars.
Yeah. There's
where a man can't cross the street to his old saloon.
Yeah, all the saloons are gone.
Yeah, you have to get an Uber to go anywhere. Even if you want to walk 5 feet, you have to get an Uber.
And all the horses are just uppity.
The horses are all so uppity.
Yeah.
They don't understand that any of the men on their back are full outlaws.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
You know.
I hate when I meet an uppity horse. Mm-hmm. I go, this is a woman's horse for sure.
Oh, definitely. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that in the last few years we've been focusing more on the outlaw rights of women. So they're able to become more full outlaws.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. You know, there's more women in the outlaw workforce. And
more outlaws in comedy.
Yeah. And the outlaw wage gap definitely needs to be cut down.
Yeah.
Because if these women are only making 70 cents on our dollar, they don't have enough money to fuck, drink, and fight.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean? Let alone, buy a house or whatever, which I don't know why you want to.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
really,
so weird.
Maybe we should cut down wages for outlaws. Because maybe they might buy a house and stop becoming outlaws.
Oh, that's the issue, is everybody's making too much money buying a house, settling down, and relinquishing their outlaw life.
Absolutely.
So what we should do is lower the minimum wage to $2 federally.
Yes, exactly.
And then when people go like, how am I going to live? It's like, just live off the land.
Yeah, just ramble.
Yeah, just ramble.
Ramble.
Yeah. And one of the greatest outlaw ramblings was General Sherman's march from, I believe it was Atlanta to Virginia to meet up with Grant's troops, because what they did was go through the South, and they didn't have any provision, so they had to live off all the land, and they just took what they needed, but no more than what they needed.
Yes.
And they also did destroy some southern towns, but that was to break the southern cowboy spirit, because they were not allowing black people to be outlaws. They were oppressing them and trying to keep them on a plantation, which is not outlaw.
Yeah.
Having somebody else pick your cotton is the least outlaw thing I can imagine.
Yeah, I go outside sometimes and I just start picking cotton because it's the outlaw thing to do.
Well, because first off, settling down and getting into agriculture and not a nomadic lifestyle is anti-outlaw.
Well, when I go and pick cotton, I just gather it all up and I go to the police station. I just throw it at the police station.
Yeah, and if I ever pick cotton, I usually use it to sew into an outlaw jacket.
Oh,
like a jacket
that's
that
a
says
good one.
"Fuck
Maybe I
cops."
should start doing that one. I just need the problem with sewing is because I'm like a man, I don't know how to do it. So I have to find a woman. And the thing with finding a woman is they want you to settle down, you know?
Yeah. Well, I do outlaw sewing, so instead of a sewing machine, it's a tattoo gun that has a sewing needle in it.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of it just feels the same as tattooing.
Yeah.
And
I
do
don't
it on
understand
my
why
skin. I
you
tattoo sweaters onto my skin.
I don't understand. We're always drinking coffee on the podcast. Why aren't we drinking any of the that wine you make in the toilet? The ones you make with the orange peels and shit?
Well, because I've been saving it to get more fermented and more nasty. Because if we drink it now...
If you piss in it, it tastes like more outlaw.
Yeah, I piss in it all the time.
Because
if we drink it now, you'd be like, ugh, this tastes good.
Yeah, you're right.
I saw a motherfucker drinking a Snapple peach tea, and I was like, do you like that? He's like, yeah, it's really sweet and pleasant. And I was like...
Yeah.
Because I like the coffee because it's bitter and black.
Yeah. I've met a lot of these people, they got tattoos, and I look at them, and they look like shit, because none of them are infected and stuff.
Right.
All my tattoos are infected.
Yeah.
I got a tattoo of an American flag, butt fucking a Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And that shit is gonna kill me.
You have a portrait of Waylon Jennings, but it just looks like SpongeBob because the skin has risen and scabbed so much that you can't even tell what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But
well,
a real outlaw would
I have
know.
a tattoo of an eye, and I squeeze it sometimes. It looks like it's crying because all the pus is dripping out.
Yeah, pus is outlaw.
Oh, absolutely. Pus is outlaw. Boogers are outlaw. Earwax is outlaw.
Yeah.
If you hate those things and you think they're gross,
Yeah, you're a bitch.
yeah, absolutely.
Because pus is a fluid that's not supposed to be in parts of the body. But
Exactly.
But it goes
Pus
in
is
there
breaking
anyway.
the rules.
Yeah, pus is breaking the rules.
Yeah.
You should see my dick. So, like, I showed a woman my dick, and she was like, "Oh my god, do you have horrific herpes?" And I was like, "I have outlawies."
Yeah.
I'm having an outlaw break.
Yeah.
An outbreak of outlaw.
You know what sucks about syphilis? When you get it, if you get all the pus out, then it's like, stop. There's, it's cured.
Yeah.
So you have to be constantly getting syphilis.
Yeah, because syphilis eventually deteriorates your mind, a.k.a. turns you into an outlaw.
Yeah, exactly.
The same way it turned Nietzsche into an outlaw, and he died an outlaw.
Oh, yeah.
Because at first he was like, thus spoke Zarathustra, you should be an Uberman. You should be the best you can possibly be. And then he got syphilis, and he was like,
I actually worked
what?
for Uber because of that book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he didn't mean that. But,
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, Uberman means...
Wait, what?
Like, the best... Like, what he's saying is you need to become the best person you can be. Uber is in, like, super best. You need to become a Superman.
Well, I don't speak another language.
Which
it's
also,
not outlawed to do more than what's been provided for you.
Yeah, that's true. But honestly, saying you should be an Uberman is saying you need to figure out your problems, which, as we've established, is outlaw.
Yeah, figuring out your problems, the fifth F.
Yeah, and honestly, Thus Spoke Zarathustra is a good example of outlaw culture because what you have is a guy who was in the world and he was like, fuck all these people, I'm going to go up on this mountain and live there forever because they're not outlaws. But then he eventually realized, if I stay on this mountain forever, I'm staying in one place, and that is not outlaw.
Yeah.
So he goes down the mountain, and then he sees a hermit who's lived on the mountain, which is like completely not outlaw because like you're staying in one place.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you are outside the bounds of society, you're still staying in one place, and that's not outlaw.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, don't go down there," and he's like, "Shut the fuck up, dude. I'm an outlaw."
Are we Nietzschean?
To be outlaw does definitely have elements of Nietzscheism. The same as elements of existentialism, like the writings of Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre. Like, those are all outlaw
I'm glad
writings.
we got a smart guy on the podcast, so I can just be here all practical and outlaw and shit.
Well, sometimes an outlaw needs to read to become a better outlaw. Because the teachings of the existentialism say that there is no preordained destiny, there is no God, there is nobody controlling your life except you, and you need to not be afraid of that loneliness, but it's not loneliness.
And exert that energy into rambling.
Yeah, it's freedom.
Into hell raising.
Because a lot of people say, well, if there's no God, if there's no destiny, if there's no heaven, what's the point of doing all this? And John Paul Sartre says, well, the point of doing all this is doing all this, which is to ramble and gamble and to be an outlaw. Because an outlaw does not have a goal in mind other than freedom.
I do believe in God, though. I believe that there is David Allan Coe is my version of God.
Yeah, no, that's not God. That's David Allan Coe.
Yeah.
You believe in David Allan Coe.
I guess I got mixed up.
Yeah. Well, of course, believing in David Allan Coe makes so much more sense than believing in Jesus because there's pictures of David Allan Coe.
Yeah.
You know? Is he still alive? He doesn't play live anymore, I think, because he has a degenerative outlaw disease.
I don't know if I think he's alive. I actually worked with somebody back when I worked in that
Or he died recently. I just know that he played one of his last concerts not long ago.
When I worked in that body shop in Tennessee, one of my coworkers, he told me he sold a car to David Allan Coe, and he sold him a Subaru, which is a hilarious car to sell to David Allan Coe.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was the scariest guy I've ever met.
But you also have to realize the Subaru is an outlaw car because it is made for all terrain. It can go for hundreds of thousands of miles. I don't know if you know this. It's really hard to get a used Subaru because like over, I think, 70% of Subarus on the road, people don't resell them. They just keep driving them.
Because it's just too covered in pussy juice.
It's too covered in pussy juice, and it's also such a good rambling, gambling machine. And an outlaw would never get rid of a machine that still works. You don't you don't fix what ain't broke. So,
do you like fucking in a car?
No.
So
one time
I've never had sex in the car I'm driving now, but the last two cars I've had sex in were totaled.
See, that's why you can't have sex in a car.
Exactly.
Because a car.
I'm like making a connection between.
Yeah.
All right, I fucked and fingered people in this car,
so
therefore it got totaled by a semi and some bitch didn't slow down fast.
Well, those cars weren't outlaw enough. The car was like, I can't deal with this outlaw culture, and it killed itself. One time I was hooking up with a girl a few years ago, and then she was like, one time before she came over, she was like, do you want to have sex in your car? And I was like, no. Well, fuck in my bed.
Yeah,
Just like
on the cactus.
Just come to my house.
Just come to my house and lie on my cactus, and I'll fuck you in front of my fireplace.
I do look back on that and say, you know what? That would have been more fun for her, at least. And sometimes an outlaw has to say yes to things if he doesn't want to do them because they are more outlaw than what he wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And having sex in a bed, of course, is not outlaw.
Absolutely. You're
Now,
supposed to fuck on rocks.
You're supposed to
on
fuck
a
on
railroad
rocks
tracks.
or near a rattlesnake.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're fucking near a snake that's all curled up and is pissed at you,
yeah,
but you don't give a shit because the snake knows you're an outlaw.
The snake's scared of you.
That's the most comfortable way to have sex for an outlaw.
I think that it is very outlaw to have sex while you're in a cage that's slowly being submerged into water.
Oh, definitely.
Because I've done that before, and the woman drowned.
Yeah. But you breathed underwater for 10 minutes because an outlaw doesn't need air to breathe.
Well, I was on top. So she was being she drowned within 5 minutes.
Oh, but your head never went under.
No.
So the whole cage was never submerged.
Yes,
like
I did not know
you just didn't let her
dead.
up.
I could have.
Yeah,
I could have.
You should have let her up because in that moment you were infringing on her outlawness.
It's one of my most ashamed moments. I was 6 years old. I didn't understand.
Okay, well, you were 6.
Yeah.
You don't understand sex when you're 6, but you have it.
When you're 6 years old and you're having sex with a 29-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You're just excited to be there.
You're just a kid. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just still trying to figure things out.
This is such a dope podcast where you go to check and make sure we're almost at the end of it.
Well, I wasn't sure how long we've been here. We're at 58 minutes. We'll talk a little more.
About the outlawism?
Well, because here's the thing. If I don't check the time that we're talking about being outlaws...
Oh, we could ramble for forever.
Then we could ramble, and then that stops people from being... Because if people listen to us, they get a parasocial outlaw relationship where they think that we're friends and that they're also living the outlaw life.
Yeah.
But really, they're wasting their life on the internet. So for this podcast, listen to it only in the car on your way to ramble and gamble, and don't take
I thought we were trying to kind of educate the squares.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's the thing. If you're an outlaw and you're listening to this, only listen to as much as you need to listen to as an outlaw should, which is probably 37 seconds.
Yeah. Skip around to our stories about drinking and fighting and fucking.
Yeah, just any stuff that you can relate to. I know you don't need the lessons. But
Yeah. Just skip past all the Cooper book stuff and then get to me talking about fucking a dead woman's body.
Yeah, just only watch Shane talk. Because if I'm talking about a book, I am disrespecting outlaw culture, and I apologize. But
only listen to Shane say gross stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
But if you are a lily liver, then you need to listen to every fucking second of this podcast because every second.
If you don't listen to it all, we're going to find out who you are. We're going to kick your ass.
It's really easy to find out who you are if you don't listen
Oh,
to the whole
absolutely.
thing.
There's we're going to have 10 listeners. And if I had to guess, I would say about 80% of the population is lily livers.
That's an epidemic.
Oh, there's an epidemic of lily livers in this country saying stuff like, oh, I hate all the homeless people shitting on the ground. Bam!
Yeah.
Knock you out.
Yeah.
I eat the shit.
Yeah.
I see a guy shitting, I scoop it up.
You see, squares see a sidewalk, I see a toilet.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't know if you know
Oh, yeah. You see a sidewalk, I see a place to dispose of my needles.
Do you know this is a real thing in China? There's an issue where people shit on the street so often. It's just socially acceptable to shit on the street. So they have to put up signs in places that tell you not to shit.
Yeah.
And that is a clear example of outlaw oppression happening in China right now.
I'm so happy to live in LA where there's almost no signs that say that.
And
there's some.
None. There's some.
There's a couple. I've seen a couple.
I will also say what the Chinese government is doing to the population of Uyghurs in there, which if you don't know,
they're pronounced Wiggers.
Is a sect of we're not going to do that. Is a sect of is a sect of Islam. So what they are Chinese Muslims, which is a very outlaw thing to be. To be a Chinese Muslim is so outlaw because people are like, "What do you believe in?" And you're like, halal chicken chow mein. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's very outlaw.
Yeah.
Cooking with MSG is definitely outlaw.
I want to go back to this shitting on the street thing. Have you seen the San Francisco poop map?
No.
Well, there's a map, and it's just all of San Francisco is has dots for where people have shit on the street.
Yeah.
And what's funny to me about that map is it's I feel like if you took any city and did that, it would look like that.
Of course.
Like, people are trying to act like, oh, San Francisco has so much shit on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you been to Los Angeles before?
Yeah. San Francisco's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't understand what all these conservatives talk about. We're like, you ever go there? It's a hellscape. And you're like, well, because of poor government, every major city now houses a section that is full of homeless people. But it's
also like, they're just saying that because it's the most progressive city.
Yes,
but it's like LA is like of the major cities the least progressive.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fucked up than San Francisco.
So much more fucked up. Well, it's also it's just so funny when people are like, fucking San Francisco is a huge homeless problem, and you're like, I feel like Memphis probably does too.
Yeah.
Like there's just less people there.
Yeah.
So you probably see them less, but like
I mean, back home we were friends with homeless people. I had a family friend that was just a homeless guy.
It's crazy. I mean, good. That's nice because you're an outlaw and you don't see them for their material wealth.
There's so many homeless people out here. I used to buy them like cigarettes and shit. I would go and buy them Newports, and like I don't think I've given homeless people anything out here because there's too many.
Yeah.
And the ones that you really have to interact with are the ones that are like, I'm cutting my face with the glass,
which is outlaw.
Yeah, it's like, but it's also like, I don't need to give you stuff because you're an outlaw. Right. Go make it.
Yeah, go make. Well, I don't give homeless people food or money or blankets or anything. I just give them leather vests.
Yeah.
And I say this should be all you need. And I give them a flint to start fires.
I passed by a homeless person the other day. He had a huge pipe, and he looks at me and goes, "You got any change you could spare?" And my immediate response was to kind of get annoyed, where I'm just like, just mug me. Like,
yeah, just kill me.
Yeah, just like, what? Why do you even have the pipe?
Yeah, you don't need spare change. You can have all the money.
You can have everyone's money. You're 6'5" and homeless.
Yeah, if you're 6'5",
just kill everybody.
Homeless and have a metal pipe. I don't know if you know this, but you're the richest man in the world. I don't know if you know this, but anything you see, you can have if you are outlaw enough to take it. And sometimes an outlaw has to take what isn't his.
Oh, exactly.
As long as it's from the rich and elite and not from the poor.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, famous outlaw.
I was about to talk shit on somebody, but then I decided not to.
Yeah, it's a good idea. See, we're growing as a podcast, so I don't have to edit out you talking shit about somebody we know personally.
Which is outlaw.
I mean,
I wasn't gonna say them by name, but it was like kind of not a thing that was even gonna
expressing how you feel is outlaw, but starting petty social trifles is not outlaw. Because an outlaw wouldn't waste his time on hearsay and nonsense.
Well, I was just going to use something that somebody had said that I thought was stupid as a springboard to talk about outlaw culture.
Yeah, but springboarding is not outlaw.
You don't think so?
No, because an outlaw doesn't have to springboard a topic. He just says his thoughts as clear as they come. He doesn't have to be like, oh, let me preface what I'm about to say.
Prefacing is not outlaw.
An outlaw prefaces himself.
If I'm reading a book, I tear out the preface.
I tear it out every time.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to hear what you have to say before the knowledge.
I'm like, you're going to tell me about something that I'm going to find out about myself? No.
Yeah.
Dude, reading prefaces is so fucking stupid.
Oh, I skip them every single time.
I skip it every time, and I had never given him a chance, or like a prologues or whatever. So I was reading this Lincoln book, and I was like, okay.
Wait, you were?
Yeah.
You were reading a book about Lincoln? Tell us about it.
He's an outlaw. No, because they're going to skip it because it's not outlaw. I can't do that. But Lincoln was an outlaw, of course. He's a Western man. Totally outlaw.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I was like, okay, well, the prologue sort of gives you a lot of context for what you're going to read, and I'm not always a great learner, so maybe if I read this, I will be more prepared when I read the book. And then I was just reading the book, and I was like, I don't want to hear a biographer be a writer. Like, the reason this Lincoln book sucks is this guy has a lot of fucking thoughts that I don't give a fuck about. It's like, just tell me about his life.
I feel like prologues are for people that are really excited about a movie, and so they're also excited about the trailer.
Yeah, and being excited about trailers is not outlaw.
It's really lame.
Because being excited about trailers
Did you see the trailers dropped, and it's like, no, I'm excited about the movie.
Well, yeah, because to be excited about a trailer is to say, I'm going to see that later, which is to make a plan, which is not outlaw.
Oh, there's movies I want to see so bad, but I can't make plans.
Like, I just roll into movie theaters on my horse and stand in the back, and I come in halfway through, and people say, what are you doing?
Well, I roll in through the back door. I wait for the teenagers to like open the back door.
And how do you open the door?
I wait for teenagers to open it.
Oh, okay. But
that's what I was just saying.
But you
listen to me.
Well,
listen to me talk.
I can't listen. I'm an outlaw. You know that.
We talked about how listening yesterday was very outlaw.
That is true. God damn it, this life is a prison. But I'm
Yeah.
saying regular doors, how do you open them?
Regular doors?
Not with your hands, of course.
Oh, no.
With the heel of your boot.
No,
You
yeah,
kick
yeah,
it
yeah,
in
yeah.
as hard as hell.
And my boot is covered in shit
And
because I
it's-
purposely step in human and dog shit.
And it sucks to open doors that way because sometimes I walk up to a glass door and I see an old woman in a wheelchair behind it, and I'm like, damn, I got to kick this shit in as hard as I can. And I do end up rocking these old women, and I'm like, I'm sorry. And it really sucks when it's a pull open because I still kick it.
And you know what
sometimes
sucks
I
when
just
you
kick
knock
a
somebody
door.
on their ass is you do have to take their wallet, which extra sucks if it's a handicapped woman.
Yeah, because you open it up and you're like, this is just a bunch of gift cards and shit. Like,
yeah,
what am I going to do
this
with
is
this?
candy.
Why
Am
is
I
there-
supposed to put this in my ass?
And a Werther's Original is not Outlaw because it's a hard candy that takes too long to finish, and an Outlaw
The
doesn't.
most outlaw way to eat Werther's Originals is you put it in your mouth and then you bite it immediately.
You don't even, you just swallow it.
Yeah.
You just swallow
You
all.
take it like a pill?
Yeah. You take it like a pill, and people are like, why'd you do that? And you're like, well, if it's really good, I can just enjoy it from my stomach.
Yeah.
I don't need to taste caramel. That's not
Yeah.
Outlaw. You know what I mean?
I'm just like, I'm in it for the nutrients.
Yeah,
I'm in it for the nutrients, which are all bad for my body.
of course.
And to an outlaw, bad is good.
That is good. That's just true.
We don't even know what good means. Somebody had to explain to me what good was the other day. I kicked his ass.
I Googled it, but the letters were all just blurry, so I couldn't read them.
Oh, not being able to see is so outlaw.
Like, through my eyes.
Being blind is an outlaw, but not being able to see is outlaw.
Yeah.
If you're blind, you're just like
Yeah.
you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're dumb, dude.
But to be like, I ain't blind, I just can't see.
yeah.
That's Outlaw.
Oh, yeah.
A guy that refuses to get any like visual aids in terms of like a stick or a cane to carry around. Is
Well, you
very
said it in the word. It's like I'm not getting visual aids.
Exactly. Like, I saw a guy, total outlaw, fully blind, dressed up just like Waylon would be. And that motherfucker was just walking into fucking anything. And everybody's trying to help him. And he was like, get away from me. I'm going into this barber shop. And it was actually just the wall of a Jersey Mike's.
Oh.
And the door was around the corner. And it took
he
him
kept
like...
trying to kick the wall.
He kicked that wall for so long until he kind of Kool-Aided man his way in. You know what I mean? Except it didn't burst the whole wall. He kind of had to climb through it. So it was kind of looked like Jim Carrey exiting the Rhino in Ace Ventura, but him getting into a Jersey Mike saying he needs a fresh cut as an outlaw.
Yeah.
And they did cut his hair on the meat slicer the way an outlaw would like his hair sliced.
Ooh.
They put his head down there and went, and then gave him a sick fade. The way an outlaw
That's
would
so
like
badass.
It was the most badass thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then he got a humongous sub, and they said, "Do you want it Mike's way?" And he said, "What?"
I'm not having it some other guy's way.
And he said, "Give me it Hank's way," because that's the only other guy's way. That's what I say when I go to Jersey Mike's. They say, "Do you want it Mike's way?" I say, "I don't think Hank would have done it that way. Give it to me Hank's way." And they say, "What is that?" I say, "It's turkey with coffee grounds on
You
it."
were really mad at me for telling my Hank story yesterday. You were very upset about it.
Well, I was upset because we were at an open mic, and you started reciting the intro storytelling monologue of a Waylon Jennings song.
David Allan Coe, and it was not the intro.
It was the intro.
It was the whole song.
Okay. It was it's the whole song. What's it called?
The Ride.
The Ride, and it is a story. He doesn't sing in it. He's just like telling stories.
He does sing.
And he talks about meeting Hank Williams Ghost. And you stopped and you told me that you told me that just to me. You told me this fake story that's not yours. And then an hour later, we were all in a conversation of like 5 guys. And then you stopped the conversation, turned away from me, so you cut the conversation in half, and then spent literally 2.5 minutes reciting this story about meeting the ghost of Hank Williams. And I was angry at you because it's not outlaw to steal somebody else's story. And I don't think David Allan Coe would have agreed with that.
It's outlaw to plagiarize.
It's not outlaw to plagiarize. Because
Yes.
an outlaw story is already written in his own heart. He has no reason to plagiarize.
Well, I experienced it.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
And you left out the fact that I was talking about how I got a ride in a Cadillac by a guy who was dressed like he was from the 1950s.
I didn't leave out the fact.
No,
That
I was
the
dressed like
story you
1950s.
told.
And he asked where I was going, and I said the cigarette store. And he drove me to the cigarette store, and he let me out. And I said, he says, "This is your stop partner. I got to get back to Alabama."
Okay,
And I say, "What's your name?" And he says, "The whole world calls me Hank." and he disappeared.
Here's the problem. You said cigarette store, correct?
Yes.
As you know, an outlaw calls the cigarette store the normal store.
I wanted it for the squares.
The stuff where normal stuff is, such as cigarettes, boxing gloves, and bottles of bourbon.
Yeah, and broken glass.
And you have to remember,
You get
outlaws...
the cigarette, boxing gloves, and broken glass store.
And you have to remember, whiskey is not outlaw. Bourbon is outlaw because it's made with corn, which is from the Americas, and it's America's drink, and that is outlaw.
Kentucky is not outlaw.
Well, Kentucky bourbon.
Kentucky bourbon is outlaw, but Kentucky itself not outlaw.
Why is that?
Because Kentucky is not a part of the American Southeast, and they pretend to be.
Oh, really?
Kentucky is the Midwest.
Okay.
And I am sick of these Kentuckians trying to act like they're from the American Southeast.
When they're not.
They're not. And I'm sick of Virginia for that same reason.
But Kentucky...
But West Virginia is the American Southeast.
Was Kentucky part of the Confederacy, though? I think they were.
Probably, but that doesn't count as the American Southeast, I don't think.
I do feel like any state that joined the Confederacy, though, is considered.
But then we're getting, like, fucking pedantic and shit. The Southeast...
Fuck, that's not outlaw.
Yeah. We have the Mid-South, which is Arkansas, Tennessee, and I think South Carolina is next to it. And then...
South Carolina's, like, coastal, though.
I'm trying to remember. North Carolina is kind of on the border of whether or not it's... Just culturally.
Well...
And then we got the Deep South, Mississippi, Georgia... Alabama.
The thing about all those
South
states,
Carolina.
especially South Carolina, is they believe that they're outlaw, but seceding from the Union in defense of slavery is not outlaw.
It is pretty outlaw.
It's not outlaw.
It's outlaw to secede. It's not outlaw to secede because of slavery.
But here's the issue with that. First off, you're right. Seceding to defend slavery is not outlaw.
I've been trying to secede.
But seceding from the United States is not outlaw because the United States was a country formed by and for outlaws, and to give up.
Well, they're rebelling against from the outlaws became cowboys.
No, they were cowboys because what they wanted to do was lay down agricultural roots and subject people to slavery, which is not outlaw.
Subjecting people to slavery is not outlaw.
Okay, because here's the thing. A big reason why the Civil War started is because a lot of land was purchased and conquered in the West. And then they started fighting over whether or not those areas were going to allow slavery or be free. And the people fighting for the freedom were obviously the outlaws, such as the Republicans like Lincoln. Because he said, okay, if we're going to bring these states in, they have to be free for outlaw culture. And the slave states were like, no, we want to settle down roots and we want to oppress black people there. And they were like, that's not outlaw. And then the South said, fuck you, and seceded. Which is not outlaw.
Okay, I'll concede. The Southeast during the Civil War
was not outlaw.
Not outlaw. But the Southeast, right now, outlaw.
Because they have come back into the fold of the American
They're
Union.
lamenting.
But I will
because
say...
they're lamenting, but they're not whining.
Their unwillingness to change with the times the way an outlaw has to, yet still preserving himself, is not there yet. The South...
I do think on some level... living in that culture and then shifting with the chimes is kind of the most outlaw thing you
But I don't think they've shifted enough.
You don't think so? I'm just saying the people I know from the Southeast that are outlaws are the most outlaw motherfuckers I ever met.
Well, of course, because an educated, non-ignorant, tolerant, and, America-loving person...
And then rowdy...
and, of course, rowdy, is an outlaw.
There's a level of rowdiness.
But all these motherfuckers in the South that are like, we're trying to preserve American tradition. We don't want trans people to have bathrooms. We want these guns, even though they seem to be causing problems in our country. To all those things that they are resistant to changing are stopping outlaw culture in America. And
the first two things, if I see a motherfucker saying, I love tradition, whooping their ass. I'm whooping their ass.
Tradition is so stupid.
It's the dumbest shit. The nuclear family is not outlaw.
No!
We gotta destroy the nuclear family, and I've said this.
We need the outlaw family.
Yeah.
Which is for rambling, gambling
what
men.
What about a guy who thinks that the Jewish people are plotting to destroy the nuclear family, and he's like, I love the Jewish people now.
Because he hates the nuclear family.
Yeah, he hates the
So
nuclear
he's like
family
a-
so much. He's bought into right-wing propaganda,
Yeah.
but he also is like, that's so right. We should do that.
So he's like going up to Jews and he's like, thanks for destroying the nuclear family. I
Yeah.
love you guys. And they think he's being mean to him, but he's being mean to them, but really...
He just believes conspiracy theories.
Are the Jewish tunnels outlaw?
Yes.
But I don't know if it was outlaw
Yes!
because they might have been using that to rape kids, and that's not outlaw.
All right. Here's the biggest difference of
An
opinion
outlaw
we're
only
ever
wants
going to
to have sex with the pastor's daughter.
Here's the biggest difference. I think raping kids, pretty outlaw.
Oh, Shane, no. No, it is not.
I don't think because something's outlaw, it's okay. I think if,
Yeah,
any,
but the
if any
problem-
of the squares are watching this right now thinking, I have the trick to be an outlaw. I have a 6-year-old daughter at home. Stop. Don't do it.
Well, yeah, because the problem is if you do that to a child, you are infringing on their freedom, which is not outlaw. It's
To harm-
just not.
To harm something as innocent as a child
It's not outlaw.
is outlaw.
No, it's
To
not.
corrupt innocence is outlaw.
No, because an outlaw fights against those that are trying to oppress and uphold, the monarchy and rules.
They're also saying, hey, don't bang a baby.
I think, honestly, pedophiles are disliked by outlaws, cowboys, and lawmen alike. They're the enemy of the world. But not in an outlaw way. In a purely
We're going to
evil
agree
way.
to disagree. We're going
All
to
right.
agree to disagree
Yeah, I mean,
on
if
the
you want to be
pedophile
pro
issue.
that,
I'm not pro it. I'm not pro it.
Well, you're not really.
I'm an anthropologist of the outlaw lifestyle.
Well, that's not outlaw.
To be an anthropologist?
Yeah, to try
That's
and...
the most outlaw thing you can do.
To try and...
To ramble and try to figure out.
Yeah, but to try and put in a box, categorize, and analyze the outlaw culture is not outlaw. A true outlaw would know to just let outlaws be outlaws.
I was about to smack my fucking thing, and then I was like, I don't want to make a mess in Cooper's house.
Well, because then I would ask you to clean it up, and cleaning up your own mess is not outlaw.
Absolutely not.
And
if I took
making
a dump in your house... Oh, by the way, Cooper has a house, if anybody wants to...
I don't have a house.
This is a house.
This is a studio apartment.
You know where I live?
In
The
an
McDonald's near my house. I live in the bathroom. And I eat the shit that people take.
And what is the McDonald's near, you said?
Near my...
Yeah.
Near
at
my
you.
roommate's
you.
house.
Look at you. You're a fake-ass outlaw.
This is the worst day of my life.
Well, I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot, obviously.
Which is outlaw to shoot yourself in the foot. It's like kind of like the most extreme version of dodging is to literally take a pistol and shoot yourself in the foot. And then be like, it was an accident.
Jimi Hendrix got out of the army. He first tried to get out of the army by
Choking
saying...
to death on your own vomit?
Well, that was very
Outlaw.
outlaw.
Yeah.
But his first attempt at getting out of the army was by telling his drill instructor he's so gay he can't sleep because he can't stop jacking off about all the other guys. And what's really funny is that his drill instructor didn't let him leave the army.
Yeah.
So it just ended up with him telling a guy that, and the guy was like, ugh, weird.
What if we were reading a biography of Jimi Hendrix and you just found out like every day he would just puke in a bucket and eat the puke? He was like he loved heroin so much that he like loved to eat buckets full of his own puke.
Well, that would just confirm his outlaw nature, I guess.
Yeah, well, you'd just be like, oh, he didn't overdose.
Yeah.
He just ate a bunch of puke and one day choked.
He just ate more puke than he usually ate.
Yeah.
But then he got out of the army.
He was so
because-
hungry that last day.
He got out of the army because he jumped out of a plane because he's a paratrooper and he broke his leg, which is outlaw.
Yeah, it is outlaw to break your leg.
To break your own body to not serve the country in a war you don't agree with is, of course, outlaw.
Mm-hmm. Viet Cong is outlaw.
Oh, my God, completely outlaw.
Oh, yeah.
Insanely outlaw.
We should get a Viet Cong for the podcast.
An outlaw?
Yeah. We should interview a Viet Cong next.
It'd be really funny if we interviewed like an 85-year-old Viet Cong soldier and we were like, so, what was it like being an outlaw?
Yeah.
And he's like,
What?
what?
Yeah. What was it like defending your nation against the cowboys? I feel like he would understand what I meant by cowboy.
Honestly, I think that'd be a good question to ask.
Yeah.
I think he'd be like, this guy actually kind of fucking understands me.
Yeah.
Because...
That's what we called them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've been trying to get in contact with outlaw groups such as, ISIS and stuff like that. And it's hard,
It is hard. We support ISIS.
I support the fight for Palestinian liberation because, of course, that is an obvious fight for outlaw liberation. Those are just people trying to live their lives in peace the way an outlaw would like to.
Yeah.
Peace and rowdiness. But
I was reading about feminism. I tried to burn some bras, and it turns out I wasn't even supposed to be the guy doing that.
Yeah,
it turns out that was for the hoes.
Yeah, but you're such an ally of people trying to fight for liberation as an outlaw would be.
Yeah. That'd be so funny to be an ally, but you're just an ally because you like to rebel. You're just like, no, I don't even like care about this. I just like hate the world.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I went to the Women's March in LA that happened a couple days after Trump was elected, and I remember walking
Did you get
around.
any pussy?
No, I was not trying
Did
to
you
get
get
pussy.
any fire-ass cunt?
I did not
Did you
go
eat any
there.
fire-ass cunt from the...
No. But I did. It was amazing to see all these thousands of outlaws taking to the streets to defend outlawism.
Yeah.
You know, such as the right for reproductive rights and stuff like
I
that.
bet cowboys are watching this podcast pissed.
They're so mad. If you're watching this
and you're like
podcast-
straight up a cowboy,
Yeah.
just email us at dagnabbitboys@gmail. As again, not the official. That's not the podcast name, even though it would be on everything, all the sites. Our name is the Outspoken Outlaws.
The Outspoken Outlaw Podcast.
Yes.
And of course, if you're an outlaw, if you want to get in contact with us, just get in contact with whichever way you would, which is maybe by leaving an old dusty letter.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
just some tracks outside of my
Or
apartment.
send in like a messenger.
Yeah, send in a
you
messenger.
You gotta send a guy that's just running from some other part of the country.
Who I shoot.
Yeah. The outlaw shoots the messenger.
I have to. Because the message you gave me pissed me the hell off. And I had to kill your ass.
Yeah, where it's like, how dare you deliver me this message?
Yeah, and a lot of people say, Cooper, isn't that infringing on the messenger's rights? Well, he don't have no rights because he's giving me bullshit messages.
Yeah.
Which an outlaw would never do.
Yeah.
Obviously. So. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
To the Outspoken Outlaw podcast. Next week, it'll probably be something different. We'll probably come up with some other bit.
I mean, yeah, being outlaws, we can't really guarantee that we're going to be the same the next week. I can almost guarantee you we aren't.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably just talk about, like, some other bullshit. Like, I mean, about 40 minutes in, I was kind of like, are we going to keep talking about the outlaw thing the whole time? And I was like, oh, we are. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This whole podcast, I've been like, I can't believe we've been doing the same bit for an entire hour. But sometimes an outlaw can ramble and gamble in such a way that is an extended long-form comedy format.
Yeah.
The way outlaws like to.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of outlaws have, gone to podcasting because since you can't really ramble physically across the United States, you can ramble verbally and metaphorically across the nation and the world. And honestly, podcasts are a great way to ramble and gamble because we can reach listeners all across the world. So I can ramble in Australia without even being there.
Ooh, that's a really good point.
Which is, so, like, we're sort of like outlaws international.
I also think everybody that's watching this podcast should know that we don't take baths and we both smell really bad, and we had like a competition to see who could smell the worst. And Cooper's really upset because I smell worse than him.
Yeah, the last time I took a bath was when I got thrown into a horse trough for being too rowdy.
Oh, yeah. The last time I took a bath, it was about 20 years ago. I pissed off the farmer because I fucked his wife, and then he threw me into a big barrel full of horse shit.
Yeah.
And that's the closest I've come to bathing.
And you said, thanks for this clean living, idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
But anyway,
when I see a bunch of pigs in a pen, I'm like, look at them outlaws.
Yeah, I see a bunch of pigs in a pen, and I'm just like, they smell too good.
I'm like, what is this, a perfume store?
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Show me some human shit.
Yeah, the only thing that smells good to me is human shit and, like, infected piss.
Yeah, I saw a homeless guy recently that had a leg that had engorged so large it was like 2 feet wide, and I was like, "Damn, you got an outlaw foot?"
Yeah. Stuff it up my. There's this porn movie from the 70s. It's called Jean Silver or something, and it's about a woman. She's missing a leg or an arm. She's missing an arm, and she just fists guys with it.
Oh, she has a nub.
She's got a nub. She's nub fucking guys in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's very outlaw.
Well, yeah, that's what annoys me about people that are ableist that say that people with disabilities can't perform all the same functions as able-bodied people because it's just
then how
like,
come they can find my prostate?
How come they can find your prostate? And also, it's like it doesn't make you less able; it makes you more of an outlaw.
Yeah.
Because to walk around without an arm is outlaw. Because everybody else has arms.
Wait. Cane and disabled. All right, let's get out of here.
Cain?
Cain and disabled. Like Cain and Abel?
Yeah.
So, like, Cain from the Bible is just beating the fuck out of some motherfucker in a wheelchair,
Hell yeah.
and he kills him.
Yeah, which is his brother.
Yes, his disabled brother.
Mm-hmm. I think actually the first outlaw might have been Eve because she ate the apple.
Ooh, don't let some of the cowboys know that the first outlaw was a bitch.
Christians believe that humans are inherently outlawed.
Yeah.
Ever since we've been bestowed with original outlaw.
The original sin is the most outlaw thing about us.
Yeah, and trying to wipe that away from your body is disgusting.
Absolutely. If I see a guy trying to wash himself of original sin, I beat him with a pipe.
Yeah, if I see a guy going to confession saying Hail Marys, I'm like, yeah, you give me 10 Whalens.
You know, I call the confession the toilet jack-off room.
Was I talking to this about you, or was I just doing this bit in my head? I was thinking it's really funny of Outlaw Church is you go into confession to talk to a biker, and you go and you're like, forgive me, Outlaw, for I have sinned. And he's like, what did you do? And you're like, I went to real church. And he's like, oh my God. Oh my God. You got to sing Whiskey River 10 times. And then you can go to Outlaw Heaven, which is, of course,
hell.
Skid Row.
Yeah.
Which is hell. And Outlaw Hell is, of course, a beautiful, pristine place with tons of rules that people follow.
Yeah, it's heavens, yes.
Yeah.
And you get to meet God, and God doesn't know country music at all.
Well, I got up to the pearly gates, and they were going to enter me, and I said, can I do-si-do in there? And they said no, and I said, well, then this ain't no place for me.
Instead of the pearly gates in Outlaw Heaven, it's the shitty gates?
It's the shitty gates. But then there's a guy standing, and he says, well, this is all you need.
Yeah.
It's still a gate, ain't it? And you say, yes, it is. Let me in there. And then a guy punches you in the goddamn face.
I feel like we should end on that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Go fuck yourself. Go fucking die. Who gives a fuck?
Hey, I got your grandma over here in the podcast studio. We gonna kill her ass.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Go fuck every single one. Go fuck yourself, man.
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
you.
I'm
Outlaw
gonna kill
shit.
every single fucking one of you.
Outlaw boys till we die.
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
you.
yeah.